This article was posted. This is from Fortune talking China 2020 GDP means it will overtake the US as a world number one economy sooner than expected. And I think it was back they were saying maybe around 2030 at the rate that China was going, that China will, of course, by 2030 that China would overtake America in terms of the largest economy. And then after, of course, the pandemic, in which China, basically everything is made in China, and all masks, all products, medications, etc., basically come out of China. And so for 2020, China was the only country that had a positive GDP, regardless of what you might hear. That what America's GDP was, that was all debt related. That was all printed money. But the real point that I wanted to talk about this morning was, I said on my Twitter, I was way back, and I said the country that brings back masculinity is the country that wins. It's the country that wins it all. And of course, America has been targeting masculinity for quite some time. And so China, in conjunction with their desire to be number one, realizes one of the most important things that every country must recognize, which is the value of masculinity. Reuters, this was as of February 3rd, 2021, right? It says Chinese plan to boost masculinity with physical education classes sparks debate. Sparks debate where? Probably here in America, where America is very effeminate. They've basically targeted men and targeted masculinity for several decades. And as a result, we're experiencing one of the greatest collapses in the American economy in all of its history as a result of weak leadership, weak men. China, on the other hand, wants to go in a different direction. This is Beijing, Reuters. This is a plan in China to get boys to do more sports as a way of making them manly, has opened a debate between those who urge more diversity. And we can see how well that's worked out in America, and those backing a more masculine society. It says the education ministry has said it aims to increase the number of physical education teachers and revamp gym classes to boost the masculinity of students. And I couldn't imagine the American educational system coming out and saying, we want to boost masculinity. They would bury them under the jail. There would be so many protests about toxic masculinity, right? It would be, the future is female. And of course, let's continue with the article. It says the plan was in response to a proposal last May by members of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, an advisory body to the government, calling for help for boys who have become too delicate, timid, and effeminate after being schooled mostly by women teachers, the ministry said. A hashtag on the ministry's plan has chalked up 1.5 billion views on Weibo social media platform by Wednesday. And I love this comment. It's hard to imagine such effeminate boys can defend their country when an outside invasion looms. Whew. That was so true. And of course, who is in opposition to China going in this direction? Ironically, it says some affluent parents worry that their sons are too fragile and are sending them to private boot camps that promise to turn them into real men through army-style drills. And of course, it goes on to say, feminist scholar Li Jun said that the ministry's plan reflected traditional attitudes on the sexes. Whew, can't have that. Here in America, of course, we're dealing with a different sort of epidemic. Now, we're going to cut over here to an article. And I've talked about this numerously as a nurse, talking about one of the biggest problems of why America has a hard time with many diseases is because of obesity. And of course, the military is one that, of course, is also impacted by that very same thing. This branch takes the cake as the military's fattest. Like, we'll go down here and we'll see the Air Force. 18% of the members of the Air Force are considered overweight. In the Army, 17%. And the Marines, which is supposed to be the Semper Fi, hoorah, right? 8.3% are considered overweight, at least overweight. It says the number spiked to over a quarter of service members over the age of 35. And they've got a couple of other articles talking about this exact same problem. And like I've said, it's not something that, of course, is something that is not, not very important. It's actually very costly. As we go down to say here, it says the Navy is the fattest, but obesity rates are up across the country. And we'll go over here. This is as of December 30, 2020. It says overweight U.S. military troops cost the Pentagon $1 billion. Trouble for the Pentagon. The troops keep packing on the pounds, right? America's obesity threatening national security. Unfit to serve. Obesity is impacting national security. It says here the three most common reasons young people are ineligible. 71% of young people in the U.S. would not be able to join the military because they're overweight. 71%. Wow, that's crazy. And I think there was another article that talked about females in the military. 40%. See if I can find it. Here we go. It's shocking. 20% of all male recruits and 40% of female recruits are too heavy to enter into the military ranks. Whew. That's crazy. That's crazy to think about. And of course, to even suggest that society, and especially here in America, would need to go back to a more masculine viewpoint, just couldn't even do it. It's kind of why we have things like this. And of course, you're looking at this individual and you might be thinking, it looks like a guy. No, he's a transgender weightlifter, right? So this is what is going on here in America. And so this is what we're dealing with this sort of thing, where you look at this person and he is basically now competing against other female born women in the space, and of course dominating. And so China looks over at the seas and looks over at America, and they're like, yeah, this shit's gonna be easy. Like we were thinking 2030, I think we can do this a lot sooner than that. And it just goes to show how far America has fallen, that this is what we worry about here. Obesity, even within weightlifting, right? And of course, here in the Stuff magazine, it says in Rio, 24 was the average age of Olympic gold and silver medalists in weightlifting. The oldest medalist of any hue was 32, and yet at 39, right, this individual Hubbard is defying this trend towards younger winners. And I was like, well, yeah, most of the people that he's competing against are women, and as you can see, he looks more like a man, but he identifies as a woman, and so as a result, he's allowed to compete. And so China is doing it right. China is doing it 100% right. You can see most of the kids are thin, right? You don't see obesity, right? You can see in this young lady right here, most of these kids don't look like there's obesity. But in America, this is one of the biggest problems that we have. And then, of course, with Low T Joe in office, very, very soft-spoken, no sort of energy, low T, no sense of masculinity. This is the leadership that we unfortunately have leading the American people. But I can say at the very least that China is doing it right, which is why typically now I'm investing more in Chinese stocks, just because the horizon, right, the view of the future in America is looking very grim at the continued pace that we're going. If America doesn't make changes very soon, there are tough times that are going to be ahead for America.